I think it's important to stress first and foremost that this is the fourth day or the fifth day in which these humanitarian corridors are being tried and tested in the Ukraine conflict. The first time it was tried, there were accusations of shelling and reports of bridges being destroyed. And instead of it actually acting as a humanitarian corridor, we saw instead civilians were killed under the bridges that were destroyed that were supposed to act as a humanitarian corridors. Again, we saw the same thing second day, third day, fourth day, and the like. Instead, what we've seen is instead of actually establishing effective humanitarian corridors, what we've seen is that the idea is being used as a propaganda for both sides. The Russians are saying that, or Russian media is saying that the Ukrainians are using civilians as human shields and that they are the ones preventing civilians from escaping in order to prevent any Russian assault on the cities, while the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are promising these humanitarian corridors only in principle and that it's really just a PR move to make Russia look like that it is this benevolent power that is pursuing legitimate grievances. And I think this is the dilemma of what is unfolding, in that the reality is on the ground that there is very little regard for the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding before us, primarily because firstly, it's a war. Secondly, there's a lack of genuine international cooperation over how this war should be conducted. The third is it's not entirely clear exactly how the war is unfolding. In the beginning, we were hearing that Russia was struggling. Now we're hearing Russia is taking cities, and we're seeing Turkish drones, videos of them destroying Russian convoys. And in other news at the same time, we see that Russia is surrounding Kiev. So I think that the direct answer to your question, quite frankly, is that civilians have to make their own way out of the cities. These humanitarian corridors appear to be more PR for both sides than actual humanitarian corridors. And instead, what we're seeing is this disaster in that we're seeing the repetition of the announcement of humanitarian corridors, but not many civilians actually able to cross through them. The final point that's worth noting is this. The final point that's worth noting is that when it comes to the Russia's humanitarian corridors, there is an insistence on trying to get civilians to go towards Russia as opposed to Ukraine. The idea being to get civilians to come towards Russia and not go towards the Western side of things. And this is what has led to accusations that what Russia is actually doing with these humanitarian corridors is trying to fuel this narrative that what is unfolding is that there are Ukrainians who want to be part of Russia, but are being prevented from doing so by Zelensky and his allies.
All right, Sami, your points are well taken. Indeed, the two sides going back and forth, your points are well taken once again. But that brings us to sanctions about Russia. President Biden has announced U.S. ban on Russian oil imports. What will be the impact of a ban on Russia and the world?
I think we're already seeing oil prices soar, and I think even the consumers now are feeling the pinch. I'm here in London, for example, going past petrol station this morning, and I see now it is £1.59 a litre. I have never seen such prices in a very, very long time here in London. And with the gas prices, people are now feeling the pinch in the US, in Europe, and the like. And the sanctions now on Russian oil will only serve to further fuel this rise in oil prices, this soaring in oil price. And I think when it comes to energy, this is one of the issues actually that the US is struggling to rally its allies behind. It cannot convince Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi crown prince, to open the taps to flood the market with oil. The UAE has been abstaining from condemning Russia, giving only lip service. Israel has said we don't want to get necessarily on board in alienating Russia. Germany, which relies heavily on Russia's energy, has been dragging its heels on sanctions with regards to Russia's energy. And this is why it has the inadvertent effect of the Americans now really chasing this Iran nuclear deal with Tehran, this idea being that Biden now is offering to lift comprehensive sanctions on Iran in exchange for Iran flooding the market with its oil in a bid to bring oil price down. But the direct answer to your question is that Biden's sanctions are really increasing, or rather making fierce, this energy crunch that is beginning to grip Europe, that is beginning to grip the US, that is beginning to grip these other countries that are reliant on fuel imports. And the reality is it might have two impacts in that, one, the oil price will rise and it strengthens the resolve of US allies to resist Washington. And the second is that it may even expand the fissures and the differences between the US and its European allies, who continue to remain far apart on issues related as to how to tackle their energy needs and supplement their energy needs as Putin continues his invasion of Ukraine.